I watched my grandson play in the backyard through the fence. My DIL got a restraining order against me after I asked to see him more. My son said, "She needs peace." I raised him alone after his dad died. That night, I pulled out the birth certificate, the trust account info, and the letter I wrote him when he turned 18. I'm 67. I live alone in McMinnville, Oregon, in a one-bedroom rental a few blocks from where my son, Mark, lives with his wife, Lisa, and their son, Henry, my grandson. I used to babysit Henry when he was little. I'd rock him to sleep, sing him little songs, feed him from those tiny plastic bowls with suction cups on the bottom. We were close. He'd reach out to me when he got scared. I was grandma. I was safe. Then things started changing. It didn't happen overnight. Lisa just started pulling away from me. First, she'd cancel dinner plans. Then she said Henry had too many transitions and didn't need to be babysat anymore. She stopped replying to my texts. At first, I told myself she was just tired. Being a mom is hard. But after a while, it became obvious she didn't want me around. She never said it outright, but she made it clear with how she looked at me. Like I was a threat. Like I was a mistake Mark hadn't figured out how to clean up yet. I asked my son, more than once, if I'd done something wrong. He always brushed it off. Lisa's just going through a lot. Or, she's tired. Or, don't make it a thing, Mom. But then came the text. After Henry turned 5, I dropped off a little bag of picture books on their porch. I didn't ring the bell. I didn't even leave a note. I just placed it near the door and walked away. That night, Lisa texted, "Please stop showing up unannounced. It stresses me out." That broke something in me. After that, I stopped going to the porch. I'd walk by the house and just watch Henry from the sidewalk when he was outside playing. I know how that sounds. I know it's weird. But he was my grandson. I helped raise him. I watched his first steps. How could I just pretend he didn't exist? I never went into the yard. I never spoke to him. I just watched. Quietly. Sometimes from behind the fence so Lisa wouldn't see me. Then one day, I was walking past and saw him running around in the backyard with a red plastic ball. He looked taller. His curls were longer. I paused, just for a moment. He spotted me through the slats and shouted, "Grandma!" Lisa came flying out the back door. She picked him up and shot me a look like I was a stranger who had just crawled out of a ditch. No words. Just this cold, disgusted look. She carried Henry inside and slammed the door. 2 days later, I got served. She filed for a restraining order. Against me. I was sitting in my living room, reading, when someone knocked. I opened the door to find a man with paperwork in his hand. He asked me to confirm my name. I did. He handed it to me and said, "You've been served." My hands were shaking. The order said I wasn't allowed within 100 feet of their home, Henry's school, or any of their scheduled activities. I called Mark right away. He didn't sound surprised. "Mom," he said, "she needs peace." Peace from what? I asked, my voice cracking. From her mother-in-law? From a woman who's just trying to love her grandson? It's not that simple. Yes, it is, I said. You're letting her erase me from your lives. She's not trying to erase you. Then what is this? I asked. This piece of paper that says I'm a threat? He didn't answer right away. Then he said the one thing that gutted me, "You made this harder than it had to be." That night, I sat in my room staring at the photo of Mark I keep on my bookshelf. He was 7 in it, missing his 2 front teeth, holding a football in both hands like it was a treasure. I looked down at my shaking hands and remembered everything I gave up for him. His father died when he was 6. Hit by a drunk driver on 99W. We had $412 in our joint account. No life insurance. Nothing but his tools and a rusted-out Chevy that didn't even run. I worked nights at the grocery store and cleaned houses during the day just to stay afloat. When I finally got the life insurance payout 3 years later after a drawn-out legal mess, I didn't spend a cent of it. I opened a trust in Mark's name. Every extra dollar I had went into it. College, wedding, house, whatever he needed. And he didn't even know. I also wrote him a letter on his 18th birthday. I never gave it to him. I kept it in a fireproof box under my bed. I don't know why I didn't hand it over back then. Maybe part of me always wanted him to read it when he needed a reminder. That night, I pulled out the birth certificate, the trust paperwork, and the letter. I sat there with the box open on my lap for hours, reading it all. Then I packed it in an envelope. I didn't include a note. I just sealed it up and drove it over to their house the next morning. I knew they wouldn't be home. Saturday mornings, they always go to that overpriced indoor swim class Lisa insisted on. I slid the envelope into the mailbox and drove away. 3 days later, Lisa called me. "Did you leave those papers?" Her voice was sharp. "Yes." "You think this changes anything?" "I think he deserves to know what I did for him." Silence. Then she said, "Don't try to come here again." She hung up. That night, Mark called. "I read the letter," he said. I didn't know what to say. He sounded different. Not angry. Not cold. Just unsure. "I didn't know about the trust," he said. "I didn't want you to feel like you owed me anything." He sighed. "Lisa's furious." I figured. He was quiet again. Then, "I want to meet. Just us." We met at a diner the next morning. He looked tired. Different. He didn't say much at first. He just slid the envelope across the table. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because I didn't want it to feel like a transaction," I said. "You were my whole life, Mark. Everything I did because I loved you. Not because I expected anything back." He nodded slowly. "Lisa's not handling this well." I looked at him. "Mark. Why does she hate me so much?" He hesitated. Then looked away. "She thinks you're too attached." "To my grandson?" I said. "Is that supposed to be a bad thing?" She said it's not healthy. That you don't respect boundaries. I laughed, bitterly. Boundaries? I stood outside a fence just to watch him laugh. That's what this has come to. He rubbed his face. "It's more complicated than that." "No," I said. "It's not." Then I asked him something that changed everything. "Is Henry really yours?" He froze. He didn't answer. Not right away. But when he finally did, he whispered, "I don't know." I stared at him. "You don't know?" I asked, my voice low. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was stunned. Mark leaned back in the booth, looked down at his coffee. He couldn't meet my eyes. "Why don't you know if he's your son?" He rubbed his jaw. "There was a time early in our marriage. Things weren't great between us. She went back home to California for a few weeks after a big fight." My stomach dropped. "What kind of fight?" "She thought I was too close to you. That I listened to you more than I listened to her." I scoffed. "Because I warned you she was controlling?" "She said it felt like she married both of us." I sat back. Hard. He went on, "Anyway, after she came back, she found out she was pregnant. I never questioned it back then. I wanted it to be mine. I told myself it had to be. I could barely breathe." "Did you ever ask for a test?" "I brought it up once," he said. "She lost it. Said if I even thought he wasn't mine, then I didn't deserve to be his father." "So you dropped it?" "I had to." I shook my head. "No, you didn't. You chose to. I didn't want to lose my son, he whispered. You might have never had him to begin with. That hit him. He looked like I slapped him. I leaned forward. You want to know why she's kept me away? Why she's pushing you further from your own family? It's because she's hiding something. And I think you've known that for a long time. He didn't deny it. 3 weeks went by. I didn't hear from him. I didn't see Henry. I followed the restraining order to the letter. I stayed away. But every day, I checked my phone. Nothing. Then I got a call from a number I didn't know. It was Mark. But he wasn't calling from his phone. He said he was staying in a hotel. Lisa kicked him out. He finally confronted her. Asked straight up. Is Henry mine? She refused to answer. Said the question was abusive. Said she was calling her lawyer. He said, then I'll find out myself. She threatened to take Henry and leave. Said if he tried to get a DNA test, she'd accuse him of emotional abuse and go for full custody. Mark asked me for money. To pay for a lawyer. I said no. I told him, the money in that trust? It's Henry's. If he's not your son, it's not yours to touch. That shut him up real fast. But then I said, I will help you. Not with money. But I'll help you fight. Because the truth matters, Mark. And if she's lying about this, what else has she lied about? A week later, I got a message from an old friend of mine. Denise. She used to work at the same hospital where Lisa gave birth. She said, you need to come over. I think I found something. When I got to her place, she pulled out a printed page. I shouldn't have this. I could get in trouble. But I looked up the record. She slid it across the table. The birth certificate. Henry's. Under father, it said, not listed. My hand started shaking. Are you sure this is real? She nodded. This is the one filed at birth. It wasn't updated later. I looked up at her. She never named Mark as the father? Nope. I called Mark immediately. Read him every word. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, she knew. She always knew. Mark hired a lawyer. Lisa flipped. Accused him of mental abuse. Told everyone he was dangerous. Said I had boundary issues and that he was being manipulated by me. She filed for separation. Then she took Henry and moved out of the house. Into her sister's in Salem. We didn't know where they were for over a month. No contact. No updates. Mark finally filed for a court-ordered paternity test. Lisa's lawyer tried to block it. But the judge allowed it. The results took 2 weeks. I'll never forget the call. Mark's voice was flat. He's not mine. I didn't say anything. I just listened to him breathe. She knew the whole time. We didn't hear from Lisa after that. Until 2 months later. She showed up at my door. Henry was in the back seat of her car. She looked thinner. Tired. Like she hadn't slept in days. You happy now? She said. You ruined my life. I didn't respond. I looked past her, at Henry. He was staring at me. Confused. Then he smiled. He remembered me. Hi, Grandma, he said, waving through the window. Lisa's face twisted. She got in the car and drove off. I didn't sleep that night. Neither did Mark. We knew this wasn't over. Lisa was just getting started. She was going to fight dirty. And she still had one more secret we hadn't uncovered. Something about the real father. And why she went back to California all those years ago. We were going to find out. And when we did, it would burn everything to the ground. 2 weeks passed. Mark didn't hear a word from Lisa. No updates about Henry. No communication at all. Then his lawyer got a notice. Lisa had filed for full custody. She was claiming psychological instability on Mark's part and citing the paternity test as her reason. She said that since Mark wasn't the biological father, he had no right to Henry. No visitation. No rights. Nothing. Mark was crushed. "He calls me Dad," he said to me one night, sitting at my kitchen table with his head in his hands. "He runs to me when he's scared. I was there for every fever, every fall. And now I'm just a stranger." I didn't have words to comfort him. I wanted to. But what could I say that wouldn't sound hollow? We were losing him. Until I got a call from Denise again. "You need to come over. I found something else." I went right away. She showed me an old patient record printout from around the time Lisa had gone back to California for those few weeks, just before she returned pregnant. It wasn't hers. It was her ex-boyfriend's. Turns out, Lisa had gone to visit an old flame. A man named Darren Price. Lived in Santa Rosa. Used to work at a tire shop. Had a DUI on his record. His name was in hospital records because he'd been admitted with a broken wrist and facial injuries, 2 days after Lisa got into town. She visited him in the ER, Denise said. You can see her listed under his visitors. I stared at the name. Darren Price, I said out loud. That name sounds familiar. Then it hit me. Years ago, right after Lisa and Mark got married, I'd overheard her on the phone. I wasn't trying to snoop, I was in the hallway getting my coat. She was saying, "I told Darren it's over. He needs to leave me alone." At the time, I figured it was some harmless leftover drama. But now? Now I wasn't so sure. Mark tracked Darren down. He still lived in California. Still worked part-time at a car parts warehouse. Mark called him from a burner number. "Hey. You don't know me, but I think we have something in common. Lisa." There was silence. Then Darren said, "Is this about Henry?" That stopped Mark cold. "Wait. What?" I figured he might be mine. I wanted to get tested years ago. She said no. Said it was Mark's kid and told me to never call again. Mark recorded the whole thing. We gave the audio to Mark's lawyer. Added it to the file. Then things got ugly. Lisa's sister, the one she'd been staying with in Salem, filed a complaint against Mark, accused him of harassment for having people investigate Lisa. We knew it was nonsense. Just a scare tactic. But the family court judge didn't see it that way. Temporary restraining order. Again. This time against Mark. Henry was caught in the middle of a storm. And I knew Lisa was doing what she always did. Controlling the narrative. Playing victim. Shifting the focus off the truth. But then Darren did something we didn't expect. He filed for paternal rights. He sent a letter to the court requesting a DNA test of his own. He said he believed he was Henry's biological father and wanted visitation. The court approved it. And when the results came back, 99.9% match. Lisa couldn't run from it anymore. But instead of owning up to it, she doubled down. She released a statement to the court claiming she didn't know who the father was, that she had been dealing with trauma at the time, and that Henry was conceived during a period of confusion. She said she wanted sole custody to protect her son from instability and further disruption. The judge ordered a full custody evaluation. That's when the real cracks started to show. Lisa had kept a lot from Mark. Credit card debt. Prescription painkiller refills from 3 different doctors. Late-night messages to Darren that never stopped, even after she got pregnant. Messages that Mark's lawyer found through a subpoena. And photos. Photos Darren sent to Lisa of Henry, photos she'd taken and shared with him years before the truth came out. All while pretending Mark was the only father Henry had ever known. When this came out in court, even the judge looked disgusted. But it wasn't over. Lisa had one last move. One last lie that nearly destroyed everything. She accused me, Alice, of trying to kidnap Henry. Said I once tried to lure him over the fence. That I stood outside with candy and called his name to get him to come to me. A lie. A complete lie. But a dangerous one. I was dragged into court. Again. My name. My reputation. My life, all under scrutiny. For the first time in my life, I hired a lawyer of my own. I brought every witness I could, neighbors, old friends, even Henry's preschool teacher who remembered me picking him up when he was 3. They all said the same thing: I never crossed the line. I never did anything wrong. Lisa was lying. The judge saw through it. And for the first time, she started losing. The restraining order? Dropped. The custody evaluation? Rushed to completion. And when the final report came back, it was clear, Lisa was not a stable primary parent. The court gave Mark joint legal custody. Darren was granted limited supervised visitation. And Lisa? She was ordered to attend mandatory counseling for lying under oath and manipulating custody. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Because while Mark finally had a path to stay in Henry's life, I was still holding the final card. One that Lisa didn't know existed. A secret I'd kept for decades. And it was finally time to use it. I knew Lisa would never stop. Even after the court ordered joint custody and exposed her lies, I saw it in her face, the look of a cornered animal. She wasn't sorry. She wasn't scared. She was furious. And people like Lisa don't learn through logic or kindness. They learn through consequences. So I pulled out the last thing I had. A letter. Not the one I gave Mark, the other one. The one Lisa wrote me years ago, back when Henry was just a baby. She sent it after I lent them money for their first apartment, $8,000 from the trust. She promised she would pay it back and even wrote, in her own handwriting, "You've done more for me than my own mother ever did." I kept it. I wasn't planning to use it. Back then, I thought we were building a relationship. I thought she meant it. But now? Now it was proof. Proof that she'd accepted trust money from a fund that was legally supposed to go to Mark's biological child. Proof that she knew what she was doing. Mark's lawyer added it to the fraud claim. See, after Darren's paternity was confirmed, Mark wasn't just emotionally wrecked. He was legally untangled. And with the trust in question, things got real fast. We filed a civil suit for misuse of funds. The trust was written in a way that any misuse, even accidental, could trigger a clause to seize assets. The $8,000 wasn't the only issue. Over the years, Mark had given her money from it, believing Henry was his. That total? Almost $42,000. And now she had to pay it back. The court ordered her to liquidate her joint savings, surrender her car, and submit a financial disclosure to determine repayment terms. She cried in court. Said we were trying to ruin her life. The judge didn't flinch. "This is not about punishment," he said. "This is about restoring what never should have been taken." She was allowed to keep her job and her personal checking account, but her credit took a hit. Her reputation? That was already gone. She had spread so many lies about me and Mark in our small town, people believed her. But now? Now the truth was out. And I wasn't finished. Because Lisa still had primary physical custody of Henry. And I knew, she was unraveling. She started missing school pickups. One day, the school called Mark. Henry had been left sitting outside with no one there for over an hour. Lisa had forgotten. Another time, Henry showed up at school in clothes 2 sizes too small. When the teacher asked if everything was okay at home, he said, "Mommy cries all day and doesn't like to wake up." We documented everything. Mark reported it to CPS, not to be cruel, but to protect Henry. An investigator showed up at Lisa's apartment. They found 3 prescription bottles, none in her name. One of them was oxycodone. She tried to lie, said they were for her back. But she couldn't provide a prescription. That was the final straw. Emergency hearing. New custody ruling. Mark was awarded full physical custody. Lisa got supervised visitation only, pending a substance abuse evaluation and treatment. When the ruling was read out, Lisa screamed. In court. Said it was all my fault. She turned to me, standing quietly in the back row, and yelled, "You took everything from me." I didn't respond. I didn't smile. I just looked at her and thought, you gave everything away the moment you chose lies over love. It's been 8 months since that hearing. Henry lives with Mark now. Full-time. He's doing well. Therapy helped. He asks about Lisa sometimes. Mark answers gently but truthfully. She's sick right now. She needs time to get better. Henry asked me once, "Grandma, did Mommy lie a lot?" I said, sometimes. But people can change when they want to. You just have to let them show you. He nodded, quiet. Then he hugged me. He hugs me every time now. I walk him to school some mornings. I cook him dinner once a week. He sits at my little kitchen table and laughs at my old cartoons. He knows who I am. And I'm not behind a fence anymore. As for Lisa? She's still in court, still fighting repayment. She tried to move back to California, but the court denied it until custody is settled. She's attending outpatient rehab but missed 2 sessions. The last update we got, she was trying to file an appeal. It won't work. Because the truth always wins in the end. She tried to erase me. She tried to erase Mark. But now? Now every lie she told is carved into the court record. Forever. And me? I sleep better now. Not because I won, but because Henry didn't lose. That's the real revenge. Not just getting justice. But making sure the ones we love are protected, even when the people closest to them try to tear that love away. I may have watched him through a fence once. But now? Now he sits in my lap, wraps his arms around my neck, and whispers, "I missed you, Grandma." That's all I ever wanted. And it's more than enough.